They say the brightest stars often burn out the fastest, but in the case of Jonathan Antoine, the light didn't just flicker. It seemed to vanish into thin air without a trace. For over a decade, the world has been captivated by that once-in-a-generation voice, a talent so massive it literally shook the stage of Britain's Got Talent back in 2012. We all remember the shy teenager with the messy hair and the denim jacket who opened his mouth and silenced every skeptic in the room. But as the years rolled on, the appearances became fewer, the social media posts grew cryptic, and the man who was supposed to be the next Pavarotti seemed to be retreating into a self-imposed exile. The silence wasn't just deafening, it was concerning. Rumors began to swirl in the dark corners of the internet. Was he retiring? Was his voice failing him? Or was there something much more concerning happening behind closed doors? Today, we are finally getting the answers as Jonathan breaks his long-held silence to address what he calls the most difficult chapter of his life. This isn't just a story about music. It's a report on a man who had to lose his identity to find his soul, and the details surfacing now are leaving his most loyal supporters absolutely devastated. The unspoken weight of the spotlight. Success at 17 sounds like a dream, but for Jonathan, it was the beginning of a psychological confinement that almost led to a permanent tragedy. When we look back at those early days, we see a boy who was thrust into a global spotlight before he even knew who he was. Our internal reports suggest that the pressure to maintain that prodigy image created a fractured reality for the young singer. He has recently hinted at dark moments where he felt done with the world, using indirect language to describe a period where he felt his life was no longer his own. This wasn't just stage fright. It was a deep-seated feeling of being an outsider in his own skin. He spoke about the accusations people would throw at him regarding his confidence, not realizing that every time he stepped on stage, he was fighting a war against his own mind. The industry demanded a polished product, but inside, Jonathan was dealing with internal complications that he wasn't allowed to show. This section of his life remained a mystery for years, but he's now revealing that the dark cloud following him wasn't just a phase. It was a constant companion that nearly convinced him to step away from everything permanently. Fans are only now realizing how close they came to losing him, not to a career change, but to the sheer weight of expectations that no teenager should ever have to carry alone. It's a sobering reminder that the applause of millions can't drown out the silence of a struggling heart. The American downward spiral. While the cameras were off, Jonathan's journey to the United States turned into a lifestyle crisis that threatened to silence his legendary voice forever. We've uncovered details about his time spent across the Atlantic, a period he now describes as being in a terrible state. It's no secret that the pressures of the road often lead to poor choices, and for Jonathan, the temptations of convenience became a shield against his anxiety. He admitted to falling into a cycle of unhealthy consumption, finding comfort in the very things that were destroying his physical stamina. This wasn't just about gaining weight, it was about the degradation of his instrument. For a tenor, the body is the temple, and Jonathan's temple was under siege. He describes a moment of looking in the mirror and not recognizing the man staring back, a man who had become a shadow of the vibrant performer he once was. The rumors of his physical decline weren't just tabloid gossip. They were a reality he was living every single day in hotel rooms across America. He was trapped in a self-destructive loop, using food to numb the sensory overload of his career. It took reaching a breaking point in his health for him to realize that if he didn't change his trajectory immediately, the latest news regarding his career would be an obituary rather than a comeback. The emotional toll of this realization is what is driving so many fans to tears today, as they realize the hidden battle he was fighting while they were simply waiting for a new song. The matrix behind his eyes. After 27 years of feeling like a broken machine, a single word finally gave Jonathan the key to his own prison, and it's a word that explains everything. In a series of recent, deeply emotional disclosures, Jonathan has revealed his late-life diagnosis of autism. He describes his brain as operating in a matrix-like state, where every sound, every light, and every social interaction was processed through a filter that most people can't even imagine. For years, his eccentricities were labeled as diva behavior or shyness, but the truth was far more complex. He spent decades masking, a term used to describe the exhausting process of pretending to be typical just to survive in the music industry. This diagnosis didn't just change his future, it recontextualized his past. He can now look back at his meltdowns or his withdrawals not as failures, but as biological responses to a world that wasn't built for him. He spoke about how liberating it was to finally realize he wasn't defective, just differently wired. This bombshell revelation has sparked a massive conversation among his followers, many of whom are now looking at his past performances with a completely new level of empathy. He's no longer just a singer, he's become a voice for the neurodivergent, proving that you can be atypical and still be world-class. The courage it took to expose this part of his life, especially in an industry that prizes perfection, is why the emotional outpouring from fans has reached an all-time high this week. The radical transformation of 2026. They say you can't outrun your problems, but Jonathan Antoine decided to out-discipline them, resulting in a physical and vocal rebirth that has left the industry stunned. If you look at the latest images of Jonathan, you'll see a man who is literally half the size he used to be. But the shocking truth isn't just the weight loss, it's the mental fortification that came with it. He recently detailed his grueling journey back to health, a path paved with light exercise and a radical overhaul of his relationship with himself. He didn't go for a quick fix or a surgical shortcut. He did it the hard way through what he calls consistent, quiet effort. This transformation was essential because his vocal cords were being affected by his physical state. He knew that to give his fans the music they deserved, he had to save the man in the mirror first. He's been open about the fact that he's still got a lot to lose, but the confidence radiating from him now is unprecedented. He's traded the oversized suits for a look that reflects his new, eccentric freedom. He's no longer hiding behind layers of fabric or layers of self-doubt. This new era of Jonathan Antoine is focused on longevity and authenticity. He's proving that his silence wasn't a retreat but a rebuilding phase. The sheer willpower required to undergo such a public renovation is nothing short of heroic, and it's the primary reason his latest updates are trending across every major social platform today. The All of Me Manifesto. The music is finally back, but the voice we're hearing now carries a weight of experience that simply wasn't there before. With the announcement of his 2026 project, Speaking to You, and the emotional release of his single All of Me, Jonathan is breaking the silence in the most powerful way possible. This isn't just another classical crossover album, it's a sonic manifesto. Industry insiders who have heard the early cuts say the raw emotion in his delivery is unmatched by anything he's done in the last 13 years. He's no longer just hitting the high notes. He's telling the story of a man who survived the darkest nights of fame. The lyrics of All of Me are being analyzed by fans as a direct message to those who stuck by him during his disappearance. He's revealing his vulnerabilities, his flaws, and his triumphs through every crescendo. The speculation about whether he still had it has been silenced once and for all. This return is being hailed as the comeback of the decade, not because of the charts, but because of the authenticity behind the artistry. He's finally at peace with the world, and that peace is vibrating through every track. For the fans who have waited years for this moment, the emotional impact of hearing him sing with such clarity and purpose is almost too much to handle. He's not just back, he's better, and he's doing it on his own terms for the first time in his life. The final report, the price of a voice. As we close this report, one question lingers. Was the silence Jonathan Antoine endured the very thing that saved his life? Looking at the full picture of his journey, from the scandalous pressures of teen fame to the revelatory clarity of his diagnosis, It's clear that Jonathan had to unalive his old persona to allow the real man to breathe. His story is a powerful testimony to the fact that we never truly know the struggles happening behind the talent. He's exposed the reality of being a neurodivergent person in a high-pressure industry, and in doing so, he's provided a roadmap for others who feel out of place. The emotional reaction from the public isn't just about the music, it's about the humanity he's shown by being so forthright about his challenges. Jonathan Antoine is no longer just a voice we listen to, he's a story we're all invested in. As he moves forward into this bright new chapter, he leaves us with a thought-provoking lesson. The most important performance of your life isn't the one on stage, it's the one where you finally decide to be yourself, no matter what the critics might say. The latest news is good, but the future looks even better.